Mayor Pete has an extraordinary profile. Okay, this guy is from a flyover state, but he went to Harvard. He went to Oxford. He speaks 8 languages. He's a veteran. I mean, his profile goes on and on. When Trump voters look at him, what do they see? Because that profile that I barely got into, that's a tough one for Fox News to knock.
He's got an extraordinary profile. I think he had an extraordinary day yesterday. It was an unfortunate day to announce for anybody else over the weekend because he has so dominated the news and generated an amazing amount of energy among Democrats who are just can't stop talking about him. I think what Mayor Pete has done, and I would give Tim Ryan a little credit on this too, is what he's done is he combined a couple things. One is jobs, manufacturing with the old jobs that was a Democratic stronghold, combined that with the environment and talks about it in the future as a positive, as opposed to defending the past as a negative. In other words, the things that Donald Trump defends aren't coming back, right? The coal jobs are not coming back. Nobody wants to work in a coal mine. People work in the coal mine so their kids don't have to work in the coal mine. The type of manufacturing jobs that Donald Trump talks about, they're not coming back. But he has combined manufacturing with energy and the environment in a way that makes the Trump voters who are nervous about their role in the future of automation, et cetera, to say, let's look at this guy, because he seems to have a vision or a plan that I think I could be a part of, as opposed to I'll protect your jobs.
Christine, Rick said it right at the top there. Anybody else who was trying to have a big kickoff weekend, it was tough because Mayor Pete is dominating in terms of news and attention. But you're seeing other candidates lead with more policy, right? Cory Booker went into detail on criminal justice reform. Eric Swalwell going big on guns. Elizabeth Warren with a full tax plan at the end of last week. And Mayor Pete, though he is talking somewhat about vision, he's really talking mostly about his personal story. It's an extraordinary one, and values. Is that a winning strategy?
Well, it's the way someone like Mayor Pete has to start, right? Because he's been mayor of a small Midwestern city. He hasn't been on the national platform before. So who the heck is this guy? You can't even say his name. And where is he from? What did he do? If there are 3 people in that office, right? So he had to establish who he is. And he's done it in a spectacular way that really has drawn people to him. And as I've said before, he's not Mayor Pete, the gay candidate for president of the United States. It's mentioned, but it's not the first thing, which I think is so exciting.
Not even the third thing.
So exciting. So he had to start with, this is who I am totally, and he's done it brilliantly. He now has to get into the specifics of policy. So I don't really fault him for not having done that yet. As it said in the piece, now he has to open offices, get staff. If he doesn't do it in the near future, that's an issue, but not at this moment in time. And the same has been said about Beto O'Rourke. He needs to come out with more policy, too. So there's always steps in this process. But Mayor Pete's doing great.
Mayor Pete seems to be attracting or speaking to those Bernie Sanders voters who didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. And tonight, Bernie Sanders is doing a town hall with Fox News. We know the DNC decided not to do a debate with Fox. What do you make of Bernie's move on the eve on the day when he's supposed to release 10 years of taxes?
Look, Bernie wants to. What you have to do is you got to turn the upper Midwest states, right? So you got to turn Michigan, you got to turn Wisconsin, you got to turn Pennsylvania or Ohio. If you can turn all of them, then the Democrat will win. You don't even have to turn Florida. And so those people watch Fox News, and so I don't think I wouldn't criticize Bernie for wanting to speak to those voters. I think one thing I want to say about Mayor Pete, though, that I think is so interesting, is that he, unlike Beto, you're never going to see Mayor Pete on a skateboard, right? You're never going to. There's a seriousness about him that Beto.
You know what? Now that you've said that, totally you are going to bite your tongue. He is going to be on like a trampoline, like wearing dealing boppers.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I think Christine's right. He needs to introduce himself because first they have to know that you care before they care that you know. We say that in politics all the time. You have to make a connection with people. I don't have any doubt that Mayor Pete can talk extensively about policy. He seems to be a reasonably educated person.
And the setting they were in speaks to that, because his administration turned that old factory into a technology center.
Right, and the raining actually didn't hurt like a rollout. As an operative,
Right.
if it rains on the crowd inside, that's a really bad news thing. But no one's talking about that because it was an extraordinary speech, and he delivered it well. And if I were on his team, I would be, as a Democrat, I'm not, but as a tactical. The rollout was very, very impressive.
I want to change topics for a moment. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. We're now seeing several top Democrats, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, defending her against the president, saying what he is doing is inciting violence against her. On the surface, that makes a ton of sense, especially if you compare what the president has said in the past about 9/11. While the towers were falling, he said, well, now I've got the tallest building. He made up the awful lie that there were Muslims standing on top of buildings in Jersey City celebrating. Two things absolutely untrue.
And he took money that was dedicated for Lower Manhattan and used it relevant to Midtown buildings he had. So he's behaved in the most horrible way.
But still, he's going after her.
Yes.
And David Frum from The Atlantic actually wrote that Democrats might be making a mistake defending her because they will now be tied to her forevermore. And Trump is setting a trap because Congresswoman Omar is in no way backing off in any way. In fact, she seems to be going deep. Could Frum be making a point here?
Well, there's a couple of different ways to look at this. And, is this the best political situation for the Democrats? I think everyone, including the Congresswoman, would agree no. But when the President of the United States singles somebody out in ways that are clearly based on targeting them for violence, and we're seeing that responded to with many, many threats against the Congressmember and her family. When that happens, even if the politics of it are
Safety
bad,
first.
you have to speak up. The president cannot act in threatening ways towards anyone, nonetheless a member of Congress. So good or bad politics is about right and wrong. And you got to stand up and say that's wrong.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.